Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Chicago, Zooming with the Alderman interview series. The League was founded in Chicago 101 years ago and is now active in all 50 states and the US Virgin Islands. We are a wide network. The League works to increase understanding of public policy and encourages citizens to become active participants in how we govern ourselves. The League neither supports nor opposes political candidates. We influence public policy through information, education, and advocacy. Our interviews with the Alderpersons are examples of League work. Hi, my name is Ilona Lechnis, and today our guest is Alder of the 33rd Ward, Rossana Rodriguez-Sanchez. Welcome, Alder Rodriguez-Sanchez. Thank you for making time for this interview. This session is being recorded, and we have provided the questions to Alder Rodriguez-Sanchez in advance of this interview. So let's start by getting an overview of the map of our current 50 wards in Chicago. Here is the map of all of our wards. Now let us find Ward 33. Alder Rodriguez-Sanchez, what are the boundaries of your ward and what are the neighborhoods in your ward?
So my ward is composed of the neighborhoods of Albany Park, Irving Park, and Avondale mostly, with a little tiny bit of North Center. And it is bordering North Park. So the furthest north that my ward goes is Foster Avenue. It only has like 2 blocks of Foster Avenue. On the east, we go down the river. So the west bank of the river is our limit. And we go all the way down to Diversey. So the north side of Diversey Avenue is my southern boundary. On the west side is a little bit all over the place. It starts around Lawndale Avenue, and it goes and it goes east. So the main border is Kedzie Avenue, but it goes all the way through Kimball to get to Kedzie. So those are the boundaries of my ward.
Okay. And what are the neighborhoods in your ward?
The neighborhoods are Albany Park, Irving Park, Avondale. Those are my main neighborhoods, and then a little bit of North Center, and it borders with North Park.
Would you say that your ward is residential, commercial, or industrial?
It has a little bit of everything. There's a lot of residential areas. We have really vibrant neighborhoods. Albany Park, for example, is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the whole country. We have lots of restaurants there from everywhere in the world. You could eat from a different country every day in Albany Park. I think we have a really fun and healthy mix of businesses and residential.
And so what would be the key issues that concern the people in your ward?
I think our main issue is housing, as it's happening, in a lot of Chicago. Our neighborhood, when I came into office, the last census had put the Latino population in our community at 54%. At this point, we were at 46%. We have lost a lot of minority neighbors in our community because the rent prices are increasing, the cost, the price of homes are increasing, the property taxes are increasing. So that has been a really big challenge. We're also facing more homelessness in the ward. So we are seeing more people that are unsheltered around our community. And we're working really hard with the Department of Family and Support Services and other nonprofits to make sure that we're providing aid. But the reality is that it's a really scary situation. Our ward has only, I believe, about 2% of controlled rent. Um, so it's really hard to face a moment like this one, knowing that rents can just increase at any moment, right? So I would say that housing is the biggest issue, and then we have been dealing with some gun violence in our community. And I think that this is across the board in Chicago and nationwide. We are seeing an increase, a spike in gun violence. And of course, we are not insulated.
Yeah.
So our communities have been impacted by it too.
What really motivated you to run for alderperson in 2019?
So I am from Puerto Rico. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I come from a very organized community. My father was a community organizer. We had to start organizing when I was 6 years old because we didn't have running water in my community. So we had to fight for water, something really basic. And after that fight, I would say that it was the beginning of understanding that if you want to have access to the resources that you deserve as a human being, you're going to have to fight for them because they are not going to be given to you. So I became a teacher. I am a drama teacher by training. My studies are in theater education. I also have a master's degree from the University of Manchester in the UK, in applied and social theater. And I spent a lot of time, both in Puerto Rico and here, doing community theater. When I moved to Chicago because of austerity in Puerto Rico. I was not being able to make a living there. And there was some austerity laws that were passed, and it was really hard to work as a teacher. So I came to live in Chicago. That was 2009, and I came to work with the Albany Park Theater Project, which was a youth theater company that created plays based on people's real life stories of immigrant communities and working class communities. And by going out in the community to gather the stories, I became really familiar with all the different issues that were happening in Chicago, right? Housing, immigration, education, food insecurity. We did plays about all of that. And we interviewed people that were active, fighting, to stay in their homes, to stay in the country. Um, and that way, I got to understand what were the needs of a lot of these groups. So in 2015, a teacher from Roosevelt High School, which is the only high school in my community, ran for alderman, and I supported him. And a lot of my young people in the company were their students. So we got behind him, and he was running on a lot of the issues that we cared about, which was housing and education. And and we didn't win that election. We were 17 votes short of a runoff with the incumbent.
Okay.
But we didn't have any money or or resources. So we continued to organize for 4 years around the same issues, around housing and around education. And
Which you're working on now also, aren't you?
yeah, and then I was asked to run when we realized that it was time to run somebody again. I was asked to run, and I said no. I said no so many times because I just didn't see the political space at this level as a place for me. I didn't know anybody that had done that in that way, that had gotten elected. Um, and it was a very scary thing to do. And at some point I realized that if we wanted somebody from our community that was going to represent us, it was going to have to be me, because there was nobody else saying I'll do it.
Well, that is interesting because now, of course, you're on being an order person, you're on the Chicago City Council.
Mhm.
So what committees do you serve on?
I am in the Committee of Education and Child Development. I am in the Committee of the Environment and Energy. I am in the Committee of Immigrant and Refugee Rights.
Oh,
I'm in the Committee of Health and Human Relations. And I am in the Committee of Pedestrian and Traffic Safety. I am on the Ethics Committee, and I am in the Rules Committee.
So tell me, choose one of these committees and tell us what kind of matters come before it.
So one of the committees that we use the most, particularly me, I am also doing a master's in social work at the moment. So I am very much interested in working in mental health. So one of the committees that I use the most to introduce legislation is the Committee on Health and Human Relations. In that committee, we see a lot of different bills related to both human relations, but also health. So with COVID, it has become one of the most important committees in city council because we are in a pandemic, right? Like, it's a health crisis. So we get monthly briefings with the Department of Health. Um, at the moment, I have a really important piece of legislation that I introduced in 2020 that is trying to create a mental health crisis response model for Chicago that does not deploy police, that deploys mental health experts. In the spirit that it has been done in Eugene, Oregon, is currently being done in Denver, Colorado, is being done in New York, is being done in Albuquerque. And it has very good result. It has had very good results in all of these places. So I have a hearing scheduled for March 4th, and I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to discuss the possibility of doing a publicly run mental health crisis response system.
Do you think there should be any changes made in the operations of the city council?
Yes.
And if so, what changes would you support?
A lot. I would say
pick one.
Yeah, so one of the most important things that I think that needs to happen in city council is that the city council needs to be independent from the mayor. At the moment, we have a city council where every chair of a committee is appointed by the mayor. And that creates a conflict, because if the executive power doesn't want any kind of legislation to come through, they will stop it through the chairs because they are appointed by the mayor. So that is a really big problem that we have, and it creates a situation in which we don't really have independence. And if I want to discuss something and the executive doesn't want to discuss that, it's just not going to go anywhere, right? It can be sent to the Committee on Rules, and then it just stays there forever because they won't take it out.
So what changes would you support?
I believe that chairs should be elected by the council. We shouldn't, the executive should not have the power to appoint chairs to any committees. That should be a function of the council, and we should be independent in that way. And I think that the people that are going to be chairing committees should at least have some basic knowledge of the of the subject that their committees are going to be seeing, right? I think that is just a principle of being informed. So yeah, that's what I would say. I would change a lot of other things, but that's the most important to me.
Okay, well, thank you. You mentioned gun violence. Now, Chicago is working to reduce gun violence. What government actions, in your opinion, have been effective or will be effective?
Well, one of the things that I really advocate for is evidence-based approaches, right? If we are going to say that something is effective, we should study it, and we should say, okay, this is working, let's use this approach. At this moment, there is outreach work that is being done in the city of Chicago that is being studied by Northwestern University under the leadership of Professor Papachristos, and it is having an impact in violence reduction. If we know that there are things such as street outreach that is being done for violence interruption, then we should definitely be looking at those models. But there's a lot of other things that we could be doing. I think that we are not talking about the impact that trauma has in the in violence, right? In people reproducing violent patterns and violent cycles. And that part, the idea of taking care of people, the idea of addressing those traumas that people are experiencing because of the violence of poverty, those things are really important, and I don't think that we're anywhere near addressing those.
Okay, so you would suggest that as one of the actions that really should be taken. Yes.
Yeah, I think that we need to expand mental health care. Chicago has five mental health clinics that are publicly run.
Yeah.
We had a lot more, but they were closed by the two last administrations that we had in Chicago. Now we need to rebuild them, and we need to make sure that we are investing in mental health care.
League members are concerned that as a result of a provision in Rule 41 that allows for direct introduction of items, the public does not get to see what texts are being considered for a vote in the city council and in its committees until several days after the meeting. So there is no way for the public to have an input before the vote is taken. Would you support requiring that all items that are up for a vote would be available to the public 2 business days prior to the meeting at which they will be voted on?
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I'm gonna say about Rule 41, when people put a Rule 41 up for discussion in the council, it is about matters that have been in committee for a while. All of these are things that can be found in Legistar, right? The reason why some of my colleagues use Rule 41 is because chairs deny the possibility of bringing those things up in a hearing. So before the Rule 41 goes to the floor, the alderman who is calling for the Rule 41 gives an opportunity to the chair to bring it up for discussion, because every alderman needs to do that 5 days in advance, right? The bill has been on Legistar the whole time. Anybody can go and see it. Anybody. So I just want to be clear that this is a matter of dysfunction inside of committees that are not bringing up legislation to be discussed. We ask for hearings. We write letters to chairs and we say, I want a hearing on this. If they don't give you a hearing and a long time passes and you're still waiting for your hearing, the Rule 41 is the tool to then bring it to the floor so that it can be discussed, right?
Right. And about the information to the public?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to increase transparency in every way that we can. So yes, absolutely. But
Okay.
what I was saying is that information is always available in Legistar.
All right. Well, about elections, during the February election for mayor and alderman, a candidate must receive at least 50% plus 1 vote to be declared the winner. If there is no winner, the 2 top vote getters have a runoff election in April, right? Now, some states are choosing to avoid a runoff election by switching to an instant runoff, which is called a ranked choice voting, which uses the votes that have been already cast. So before asking you what you think about switching to ranked choice voting in Chicago, let me remind our viewers how ranked choice voting works. In ranked choice voting, a voter ranks the candidates on their ballot by his or her order of preference, first choice, second choice, third choice, and so on. If the first ranked candidate on the people's ballots gets 50% plus 1 vote, that candidate wins, just like now. But if there is no winner, this is what happens under ranked choice voting. The candidate who got the fewest votes is eliminated. However, the votes for the rest of the candidates are not eliminated. The votes for the second choice candidates are assigned to those candidates, and the votes are counted again with those additions. If there still is no clear winner, the next candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and the votes cast for the third choice candidates are assigned to those candidates for whom they were intended. Now, this process continues until there is a majority winner. And now for the question. How do you feel about using ranked choice voter in February elections and making the April runoff no longer necessary in Chicago.
I think that's a good idea. I don't have a problem with it.
You're fine with it. Oh, okay. Your term ends in 2023. What would you really, really like to get done before then, or at least get started?
So as I was saying before, we have been working on a campaign that we call Treatment Not Trauma, trying to ensure that mentally ill people or people experiencing mental health crises in Chicago are treated with dignity and respect and are not criminalized because of their mental illness. We are really trying to ensure that we have a mental health crisis response system that is publicly run. We have mental health clinics that are public. We want to be able to do that. At the moment, we have gotten as far as getting a pilot. It's really, really, really small. So we are trying to push for more. So before our term is over, I really hope that we have at least several robust pilots across the city of Chicago to ensure that people with mental illnesses receive the care that they need when they need it.
Alder Rodriguez-Sanchez, thank you for being with us today. You are giving many Chicagoans an opportunity to become acquainted with the 33rd Ward. We'll be sending you a link to the video of this interview, and everyone who registered for today's program is not a league member will receive an email with the link to this interview and an invitation to sign up for notices of our future programs. Everyone else looking for this interview on the Chicago League website will also find quite a few interviews with other alderpersons already. Now, we invite you to join the Chicago League. All civic-minded men, women, and men are invited because men have been league members since 1974. Mm-hmm. We accept Democrats, Republicans, and the unaffiliated who believe that working for and strengthening democracy is worth their time. The next premiere will be on February 17th at 6 p.m. with Alder Scott Wagesbeck. We hope you will join us often as we learn about Chicago and its elected officials, one ward at a time. And I thank you.